Listen to leading author, researcher, and speaker on high performance Ty Bennett share new research on what drives high performance, what stops it, and how to unlock it. Pay attention to the full conversation and translate it to massive action, and you will elevate your career and your entire life.
Ty Bennett, what an honor to have you on the podcast. Industry leading researcher, author, and speaker, redefining the world of high performance, helping people around the world understand what drives high performance, what stops it, and how leaders can empower it in their people. I am so excited to dig into the world of high performance so our audience can learn how to apply it in their sales careers, as entrepreneurs, and probably across the board in their life. And also, you're the CEO of the largest Ninja Warrior gym, right? Let's dig into that a bit, but then I wanted to ask you about your journey to speaking, and I've got so many questions, but tell us about this Ninja Warrior thing. How'd you get into
Yeah, Chris, it's great to be on with you. Thank you so much for the invite. Yeah, Ninja Warrior, I didn't find it. I had kids who found it. And so I have 5 kids. I live in Utah. I don't know, it's something that happens, I guess, when you live in Utah. And my 2 boys, who are now 15 and 17, about 6.5 years ago, they watched the show American Ninja Warrior for the very first time, and they became obsessed, just fell in love with it, started reenacting it. We started to build some obstacles in the backyard and kind of just support them, right? And found a gym. They started training and competing. Well, the short version is this has kind of taken over our lives. We now own 2 Ninja Warrior gyms. I guess as an entrepreneurial dad, sometimes that's what happens. And the one I'm actually sitting in, I have an office here in our gym, is the largest Ninja Warrior gym in the world. And yeah, as soon as we finish here, we've got a local news anchor coming to interview me about the gym. So we're doing that here in just a little bit. But yeah, it's been a really fun thing to support them. It's been a fun thing to be a part of. It's an awesome sport, great community of people, and it's as you know, a metaphor that I use quite often when I'm speaking and sharing some of these lessons on high performance, because I think it visually demonstrates some of the things that I talk about so well.
I really enjoyed seeing you on stage at the National Speakers Association.
Thank you.
You had a Ninja Warrior set up, and your sons were doing these acrobatic moves. And you know what? In the talk that you recently gave, there was some real drama at the end.
Yeah.
Where your son, I think he failed on a move a couple times, but then he got it. It might have been the third. The crowd went wild. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about failing forward and learning from failure later. But to the theme of high performance, you are one of the best speakers in the world. And I don't say that lightly, because I talked to other leading speakers like Mark Hunter, who I've had on the podcast. He's a top sales speaker.
Mark's a great guy.
He was taking notes on your talk, and him and I were nerding out on your talk after. And you're an elite performer when it comes to speaking. And so I'm just curious, did this path of speaking, did you choose it or did it choose you?
It's a good question. And I know lots. I mean, we have mutual friends that are speakers, right? Just like any profession, when you do something for a living, you kind of end up meeting all the people who do the same kind of thing. And I know lots of people who speaking found them, but for me, it was a very conscious choice. It was a decision I made. I kind of fell in love with the idea of it when I was in high school. I was involved in a program called DECA. It's like a business and leadership program. I was the vice president for the state of Colorado, and one of my roles in that responsibility was actually to choose the keynote speaker for our state conference. And so I remember watching, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was watching demo videos of these speakers, and I literally handed this guy a check for $2,500, which as a high school senior I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
And then I stood kind of backstage off to the back, watching him just hold this audience in the palm of his hand. He had us laughing, he had us crying, and I was like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so it was a concept in the back of my mind. And then my journey was as an entrepreneur, still is, I guess, but I built a business in my 20s that we did very well, built it to about 25 million a year in revenue. And as we built out our sales team, we had conferences where I hired speakers to come in and speak, right? I hired John Maxwell and Peter Vidmar and Les Brown and T. Harvecker, and just all these different speakers. And so because I had that in the back of my mind, I would always take them to dinner and pick their brain about it a little bit and ask them, okay, how'd you get into this? What advice would you give me? Just all those kinds of things. And so in 2010, I did a lot of speaking within our organization internally, but it's something that I wanted to pursue. So in 2010, I wrote my first book. You can kind of see, oh, wrong way, the power of influence right there
Look at this.
behind
Wow.
me. And
Cool.
that's what kind of launched me into speaking. You mentioned Mark Hunter. He and I actually met, ironically, in Bogota, Colombia. We were sharing the stage at an event, and
Wow.
we were there. And then 2 weeks later, that same group brought us to Santiago, Chile. And so that's where I got to know Mark. He's a great guy. But yeah, I definitely chose to pursue speaking as kind of my next career after that first business. And that's been my main thing for the last 16 years. And obviously own a few things outside of that, invested in some other companies, but that's been my main focus.
So inspiring to people like me that want to follow in your footsteps. And maybe there's people in this audience watching this that's going to have a spark lit in them. And it's cool to hear that you intentionally created it. Because some might say, oh, it chose me. Some people just finds them. But the fact that you realize it's what you wanted to do and made it happen is very powerful. And before we get into some of the factors driving high performance, things stopping it, it is so cool that you have your books displayed behind you. And I just wanted to get your take on maybe a little walk through the just super high level of each of them. And a
Yeah,
funny question that comes to me too is like, what are you most proud of? But I'm sure you're proud of all of them, right? But
yeah,
walk
interesting.
us through real quick the books.
Yeah, so I'll walk you through. So The Power of Influence was my very first book. Um, I'll give you just kind of an interesting lesson, I guess, for me.
Cool.
So when I decided, I still view myself as a speaker more than an author. That's my natural skill set. But I found, as I was really studying the industry and how do you set yourself apart, writing a book is a great way to do that. And I don't think writing a book is an easy thing, but anybody can do it, right? Like, I don't think any of us
Mm.
can go play in the NBA, or I don't know, maybe we could all climb Mount Everest. I don't know. I've never done it. But like something that distinguishes you, the process of writing a book though has helped me to distill ideas and clarify thoughts and really get to content that is valuable to people. So the process has been awesome. So um I wrote The Power of Influence, but I was writing kind of like this broad book idea, like, and I remember sitting in my office at the time. I had this huge bookshelf with all of the authors that I love. And Stephen Covey was one of those authors that had a huge impact on me. In fact, he was a personal mentor. I got to know him before he
Wow.
passed.
Unreal.
And I was looking at my shelf, and on my shelf, I had Seven Habits. And then about 15 years later, he wrote The Eighth Habit. These are big, thick, college textbook type books. And then next to it, one of my other favorite authors who has been a huge mentor as well is John Maxwell. And I had like 60 of his books sitting there, right? But smaller, easier to read. And I just had the conscious thought, for me, I like reading John Maxwell's books better than Stephen Covey's book. Just
Oh.
the style of the book, right? A little bit easier, like digestible. And so in my mind, I went, that's what I want to do. I want to write a little bit smaller books. I don't need to write this huge college textbook, right? And so that's where I honed in on The Power of Influence as my first book, knowing that I had additional content, but instead of making it this ginormous book and influence is one chapter, I wrote a book on influence. So that's what launched me into speaking. That was my first book, came out in 2010. And then my next book was called The Power of Storytelling. It's right behind me. I guess I can move right there so you can see that. That was conscious by choice to call it The Power of, right? Like, so it kind of blended together. And even the subtitle is The Art of Influential Communication, because I was speaking on influence so often, right? And those two, went together. I still speak on storytelling. That book came out in 2013. It's been updated, but I speak on. I'll be in Colorado speaking on storytelling next week. Storytelling, I think, is the most underrated skill in business,
Mm.
especially for salespeople. I think I do a good job of breaking it down and teaching it as a skill, so you walk away with really tangible ideas. And yeah, I wrote the book, The Power of Storytelling. And then the next book I wrote is called Partnership is the New Leadership. A leadership book, obviously. I think that approach to really partnering with your people is what derives commitment and engagement from your people. I
Hmm.
think it's the approach that leaders need in today's world. I still speak on that topic quite a bit. And then my next book that I'm literally in the process of writing will be titled Redefining High Performance. And we can dive deeper into this, but the speech that I'm giving most often now is around that content. We did a national research study and published a white paper on our findings there, and now I'm going to expand it even further to the book.
Wow. Yeah, I love the talk. And some of my questions for you today are based on some of the components of
Okay.
performance you illustrated. You got some great stories, and it's all data driven too. But we're going to link that white paper in the
Okay. Cool.
description of this video and podcast so people can check it out. Thank you for putting in all the work in to do that research, and also all the books you created. And sometimes questions spontaneously come up, but it just seems, based on hearing you talk about the process of writing a book, that, I mean, anyone can do it, but it's extremely difficult, and it's such a small percentage of people who do it. But it seems that the pursuit and process itself produces value. Maybe it's like character growth, refining our thinking, aside from the outcome of the success of the book and sales. So is that something that you would say is a part of any great endeavor? Like the pursuit and the process itself shapes us? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah. I think completely, right? Because I don't know if you've ever pursued something that even if you attain it and it's like everything you dreamt of, it's still fleeting, right? It still is a one-time event. There's nothing that's lasting forever in terms of achievement, attainment of something. I'll give you an example. So the speech that you just referred to, where you saw me speak, that's like a career goal speech, right? To speak on the main stage of NSA Influence, which is the biggest conference that the National Speakers Association puts on. I've been involved in the association for 16 years, right? That was a goal. That was something I always wanted to do. And I'll be honest, it went as good as it possibly could have gone. It felt amazing. Like I am so
You crushed
proud
it.
of, loved it, but it was a month and a half ago and it's gone. Like that's the it. Like I've got video and I've got pictures and like it's fun to maybe relive a little bit,
I
right,
think
in
it's
my
updated on the
memory.
website, Ty, which we're linking. I think you got to
Yeah,
do it from the
okay.
top.
So like it lives on in some ways, but the pursuit of creating that speech is what has changed me, right? And we created something. The beautiful thing is, so that speech that you saw, obviously there were custom details for the National Speakers Association, but that was given on Sunday. That week we gave it on Wednesday in Florida for a group of school administrators, and it
Cool.
was just as good Wednesday as it was on Sunday. Now, there were some different custom details, but then since that speech, we've given that, I don't know, 8 times, and we've created something of value that we can now take to the world, right? Um, that's that's the process. That's what lives on in my mind. So it is the journey. It is it- like the piece of that most people don't see, the way that the creation of that speech has consumed me for the last couple of years, like constantly looking at it, tweaking, finding the right content, like the right stories, flushing all those things out. Like that process is what I think is the most amazing part.
So before I get to the first factor that I think, based on what you said, is the most important factor driving high performance, which we will get to, I'm just curious, does obsession play a role in your success? Because it seems
I think
you're
so.
obsessed, man. And it's like I was reading. I do know Brendan Burchard because I feel like you
Yeah.
and him are like peers.
I don't know him well,
Yeah.
but we've met once or twice, and I have mutual friend like we have mutual friends. But I like his stuff. He's awesome.
Yeah, you two are two of the people I look up to in this
Oh, that's
industry.
nice of you to
And
say.
So just it seems like you're obsessed, man, in a good way. So like what role does obsession and maybe curiosity ties into being able to do great things?
So for me, I'm a pretty obsessive personality. I think I have been forever, and it's obviously there. I think any trait there's good and bad to it, right? It's driven me. It's provided things. It's probably driven some people nuts in the process too.
Yeah.
Uh, but when I think about commitment, for me, um, I think commitment is a huge differentiator, right? I think uh, years ago, I put up on my wall in my home office, when you're interested, you do what's convenient. When you're committed, you do whatever it takes.
Mm.
And for me, uh, that's a huge factor. I think there's four levels of commitment. The way that I look at it is the first level is distraction, right? Like we say we're going to do something, but we're constantly distracted by anything that comes up, anything that catches our eye. It's like the shiny object
Mm.
syndrome, right? Like, okay, now I'm over here. Well, you can't get anything done in any huge way when you're distracted. The second level, just a little bit higher than that, is decision. Now, decision is sounds pretty concrete. The word decision means to cut off all other options. So you're actually eliminating distraction. You're saying, okay, I'm done with that. I'm cutting off. This is where I'm going. But I think making a decision is simple, managing a decision is hard, right? And so where you start to manage a decision and follow through is level three, what I would call discipline.
Mm.
Discipline is the follow through. Discipline is the daily actions. Discipline is this is where you put in the work. This is where you eat healthy every day. This like there's consistency that starts to take place in that. But I think what separates good and great is level four of commitment, which is devotion. This is the obsession that you're talking about,
Mm.
right? When you're devoted to something, when it consumes you, when you can't get it out of your mind. It's always, whether you're doing anything else, it's always in the back of your mind and you're constantly ruminating on it and you're letting your subconscious think about it and you like see the world through that lens. The great singer tenor Luciano Pavarotti, one time in an interview, he said, "Most people think I'm disciplined. I'm not. I'm devoted." And there's a huge difference between those two. And so I do. I think obsession or devotion, to use a different word, I think it matters. I think it's a big separator of people who really create something of significance, something of impact.
Man, Ty's unlocking all the secrets to high performance for us. And if you're looking to apply the principles of high performance in action in the tech sales arena to land a better gig in tech sales, whether you're breaking in for the first time or upgrading to a better role, or if you're looking to crush your metrics as an SDR or an account executive and get your next promotion, then feel welcome to book time with me at my Calendly link to explore how our tech sales accelerator programs can help you win on your tech sales journey. We've helped people like Max launch their careers at top companies like Rubrik, Ethan crush it as an SDR at Mercury, and Nick become the #1 account executive in his org at Splunk. If any of that sounds like you and you're ready to become a tech sales high performer, then I look forward to seeing you on a call where we can map out a plan to hit your unique tech sales goals.
Gosh, it's so cool to walk through the four levels of commitment. It's just such a useful thought model, and to see how it progresses to devotion. I love that word, and it makes me want to be devoted to my craft. And I hope it inspires this whole audience to find something to devote yourself to. I think there's a lot of meaning that comes from that. And what I think is cool, Ty, is that you're devoted to your craft and you have the balance of a beautiful family. And that's pretty cool that you have that multi-dimensional success. So, damn, I keep coming up with new questions, but we're about
We
to
can
get,
go anywhere you want.
we're flowing, and that's what's fun about this. But how do you strike that balance of, you could call it work-life harmony? I don't know how you think about it, but you've got a great family while also building outlandish, that's a funny word, career success. So,
Uh, I am not going to claim any expertise in that. I think it is a constantly moving target. At least it is for me, because I have 5 kids. I have a couple of businesses. I have a wife that I care about. I have church responsibility, just
yeah.
all of the things, right? Life is busy. So I think there's a couple of things that just come to mind as you ask that question. One is I believe in the importance of adaptability, and this idea applies to this conversation
Yeah.
because at different stages and in different seasons, my kids, my businesses, myself, my spouse, we all need different things. And so there was a time pre-COVID that my kids were littler and I was doing about 100 speeches a year. That's not the season I'm in now. And honestly, I don't even have an interest in it. About 50 speeches a year is good for me, 40 to 50 in that range, uh, because I've got other responsibilities. And so I'm trying to balance all of those things out, right? Um, Also, I think my main job, so as my businesses have grown, I have teams of people that are helping me. It's not just me doing everything, right? And one of the main areas in which look at as a job responsibility for me is in taking care of myself because I need the energy and the ability to show up in the ways that I need to show up. So my health, uh my self-care, those things matter, like to a point that that is a role within my business that I look at. And so even I'm coming off of being sick, that's why I keep drinking water. My voice is a little bit bad here, so I apologize for that. But though some of those things like to manage all of it, it's not an easy feat, right? It takes a lot of work, and I think that it also is the way that you show up. I spent a lot of my time talking about leadership. I think that the way that I show up as a leader within my family matters more than anywhere else,
Mm.
right? And so the way that I lead with my wife, with my kids, like those things, prioritizing those things matter. We could go down this trail a lot of different directions and talk about some of those things, but uh, one of the things I love talking about high performance and some of these things is that I'm constantly talking about principles that I need to remind myself of too. And so striving to live those things on a daily basis, not easy. I fall short a lot, but we keep pushing as hard as we can.
Yeah, we push as hard as we can. We do the best we can. And I love that you focus on leading your family first. You also lead yourself. You put your oxygen mask on to and handle your own habits and well-being to show up at your best. So really insightful. I just can't help but follow my curiosity as you share more and more nuggets and insight. And I want to go down rabbit holes, but I'm finally going to bring you to really getting in the thick of high performance. If we treat our business casually, it'll become a casualty. Now, I don't think I quoted you exactly right, so I'd like you to correct
Very
me there, but
close.
then
Yeah.
we can get into that topic.
Yeah, that was actually advice given to me as a young entrepreneur by a mentor. She said, if you treat your business casually, you'll become a casualty.
Okay, cool.
And I think that's perfect quote to add to the conversation we were just having, because I think it's applicable anywhere. If you treat your marriage casually, probably become a casualty. If you treat your kids casually, the raising of them, how you show up for them, that could be a casualty. And those things are more catastrophic. If you treat your health casually, like all of those things, right? We could apply it there. I think there's a mentality when it comes to high performance of extreme ownership. And if you're going to take something on, then I mean that's the devotion that we were talking about, right? Like that's the level that you have to show up.
And if you were taking your business, your life seriously, and you're taking ownership, you realize how important preparation is to show up at
Mhm.
your best. And so this is just really resonating from the talk you gave, the importance of preparation. And I thought you said preparation is the single biggest driver, but I don't know that it is because where there's others we're going to hit on. You even mentioned another adaptability. We'll get more
Mhm.
into a few others, but is preparation the number one driver? Or would you think of it in that way? And what does preparation actually look like?
Yeah, so according to our research, it is. It's the number one driver. It showed up, highest in the scores in terms of how people see it, what separates good from great. I think there's lots of drivers. I don't think success comes down to any one thing, right? But I think it's a big one. And we could dive into lots of areas of it. The reality is preparation's not exciting to talk about. Nobody cares that much, right? Like
I resist it, Ty, all the
yeah,
time.
oh,
I
well,
know
we all
I was
do.
preparing for this podcast and how I'm going to open it and this and that. And but even then it's like, I'm tired from last night. And it's like, I resist it all the time, but it's so important, the preparation.
Well, let me give it to you this way. So I think this is interesting. Uh, the speech that you saw me give, like last month, I'm 16 years into my speaking career. I've spoken on some big stages, right? That wasn't the biggest audience I've spoken for. There are about 1,000 people in the audience. I've spoken to 18,000 people.
Ty, on your website, man, there's an epic pic of you like with a huge audience. So the audience needs to check that out. That
Yeah.
was a
So,
big
I mean, I think the biggest audience I've spoken to is like 19,600 people, something like
Yeah.
that. Um, but that speech that you saw me give a month ago, I think went better than any speech maybe I've ever given my career.
Wow.
The interesting thing to me is that that speech is also the speech I probably prepared for the most in my career. That's not coincidental, right? Like it's easy, especially for most of us who are listening. If you're listening to a podcast like this, you're probably already a high performer at some level, right? High performance is very subjective in terms of like how you measure it. It's the caution for people who are already high performers is it's easy to rely on past experience and know that we can show up and be pretty good, right? It you could throw me in front of an audience right now, I'd be pretty good. But preparation is a separator.
Mm.
And so if we will actually put in work to prepare, that performance could be at a different level, right? It could open up new doors for us in that regard. I like to take the lens with my audiences to look at it from the cost of the lack of preparation, because for whatever reason, I think that resonates with the fact that, yeah, there is an actual cost when I don't do this, right? Sometimes the fear of loss is greater than the prospect of
Yes.
gain. And so, but yeah, preparation matters in a huge way.
If you don't mind sharing, I had to ask you about how Nike lost Steph Curry.
Yeah,
Isn't that a good
it's
example of the cost
it's
of
an iconic
preparation?
story, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
so in 2013, there was a group of Nike executives that were tasked to meet with Steph Curry. And Steph Curry had already been with them for 4 years. So the purpose of the meeting was simply to renew his contract for another 4 years. They kind of thought it was a done deal, right? Like, who leaves Nike? And so they really didn't put much preparation into it. And it started going south pretty quick. The head executive in the meeting started calling Steph by the wrong name. So
Oh
his
my
name
gosh.
his name is Stefan, and he started calling him
Oh
Stefan, right?
gosh.
And think about it, this is Steph Curry. He's playing in the NBA. Like, people know his name. And
Yeah.
so that probably didn't sit well. And then as the presentation starts going, they had actually recycled slides and didn't really prepare. So you start paying attention, and Kevin Durant's name is on most of the slides.
Oh no. I feel like sick to my stomach right now.
Yeah.
As
Can
a
you imagine, right?
salesperson, it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
And and so at the end of that meeting, Steph Curry made a decision to leave. And he left
wow.
Nike and he went to Under Armour. That was 12 years ago. Most experts estimate that that has cost Nike $12 billion up to this point. And that will be billions more be for the rest of Steph's career and then long after. Steph is one of the most beloved basketball players of all time, right? His shoes will sell forever because of how iconic he is as a person and a basketball player. So, yeah, there's a huge cost, right? The cost might be for you and I the loss of a sale. It might be lack of influence. It might be not being relevant in the conversation, or it might be billions of dollars, like in the case of Nike.
Yes. For the audience of predominantly sellers and some sales leaders who, I mean, these are perfect people for you to speak to, Ty. And didn't you have a sales company, by the way, on a quick tangent?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So my first company was indirect sales. I've built and led sales teams, and we speak to a lot of sales audiences. So yeah,
guys, definitely
I
bring
hopefully
Ty
it
in.
resonates.
Seriously, like, but it's cool, sales, but how relevant is it? I picture myself Before I went all in on the podcast and entrepreneurship, I met with a multi-billion-dollar company and the CIO and head of procurement. That was a critical meeting. I prepared, and it opened a door, which I ended up going to entrepreneurship. So I guess this isn't the best story, but I was going down a path to a massive deal. But if I didn't prepare, in the context of like enterprise tech sales, you can be like one of my big deals at Google Cloud when I sold there was 10 million over 3. You miss out on that. Some people are doing $1 billion deals, and the company maybe is missing $1 billion. The seller's missing a lot of commission, but it's cool, Ty, to look at. There is a substantial cost to not preparing, to not doing the research, to not even like doing a dry run of the presentation with a solution architect. And then early sellers, SDRs, they're picking up the phone and making cold calls. Many people are waiting for the prospect to pick up, and they're caught practicing on the court when they're hit with the objection, I'm not interested. And maybe this loss and the cost is a little less, but still you're missing on opportunities. So the cost of inaction, that story was so powerful. And how many billions of dollars did it cost him?
12 so far.
Far.
Let me just add to this point. I believe that there's a lot that lies on the other side of preparation. So let me explain. The example you just gave, Chris, you prepare for these big meetings that you have coming up. If you're prepared, it doesn't just mean that you have this rehearsed and you know exactly what to say, you've got the script down. It probably means that. But it also allows you, more importantly, to be present in that meeting. On the other side of preparation, you can adapt. On the other side of preparation, you can probably be funnier. On the other side of preparation, you can show up and be yourself. On the other side of preparation, you can read the other people more because you're less in your head, right? It opens up this space for you to be able to then be successful in the way that you need to in that given situation. I think all of that happens on the other side of preparation.
You know what? This doesn't just apply to sales scenarios, but interviewing scenarios when you're trying to land your dream job. And Ty, a big theme of this channel predominantly is people are breaking into tech sales or landing a dream job. They're winning large clients. So it's funny how they're both selling. They're both high stakes, but when I ended up getting hired at Google out in Austin, that was a big deal for me at the time. I'm a millennial. I'm like Google, the brand Austin.
That's awesome.
And I did prepare so much. I spent a month preparing, and I got interview questions in advance after networking with people.
Sweet.
And then I was able to your point, surrender to the preparation and trust, and then be present. And you know what the presence led to? This is so quirky, but I broke out into singing Lean on Me in the moment in one of the interviews, in the Googliness interview, which you have to adapt their culture. They say, bring your full self to work. That might not have flown with another company, but it's because I was present. I was able to do spontaneous things like that. That was memorable and unforgettable. Ask better questions and tune in. So just to recap what you're saying, preparation allows you then to be present. And is there anything you would expand on in terms of the importance of presence, being able to tune in to others and adapt in the moment?
Well, I think what you said is perfect, right? I think that the intangibles is customization, right? I give speeches for a living, but the same concepts would apply to interviews, to presentations, to sales presentations, to one-on-ones as a leader, right? We could apply them in all those things. It's in that moment when you read the audience and you adjust and you adapt and you say what they need to hear, not what you need to say, what they need to hear. Those are the things that matter, the little touch points. Even if it's just like you're going to say the same thing, but because you've paid enough attention, because you're present, you can say, isn't that just like this, right? You can tie it to them in a way that's more meaningful. You can personalize it. Those things make a huge difference.
Ty, that is like what I built my whole tech sales career on, was thoughtful personalization. And you can only do that when you are able to focus on others and tune in. So appreciate you hitting on that note. And I love how your concepts of high performance, and we'll see if we can fit in a little storytelling. It applies to sales. It applies to all domains. So
I'll share one more thought, Chris, before we move on.
Awesome.
The other thing that it does for, like, when I think about you in that situation in tech sales, this you've put in the preparation. The other thing that does for you is gives you a level of confidence going in that you wouldn't have otherwise. Right? Like if you know more, you've done your research about like the potential client you're sitting in front of, all these things, you probably aren't going to use all of those things, but you have them and you have a
Mm.
level of confidence going into it that you go, I can speak their language. I know it's important to them. I can pull on this string if I need to. I can go this direction if I need to. I can tie this point in here. And so it just gives you a level of confidence going in that comes across.
Oh, I'm so glad you stopped me there to hit on that point because that really seems to be a secret to true confidence in high stakes moments. And it's directly in our control. Our preparation builds confidence for the speech, for the discovery call with that $1 billion account, for that interview. And so I want to go to adaptability in a second, but when you're entering into high stakes moments, like giving a big speech in front of NSA, I might assume like, oh, Ty might not get nervous anymore. He's a pro, but I don't know if that's true. But for how do you speak to yourself as you enter into high performance moments after knowing you put in the preparation and it's time to execute now? So are there any way you speak to yourself or little even physiological habits or things that you do to tune yourself to shine in that moment?
Yeah. I think we all have our own practices we start to figure out. For me, right before a speech, that's not the moment of to rehearse. If I'm like running through lines of what I'm going to say, I did not prepare it the way that I needed to. So for me, right before, my focus is on energy. It's the energy that I have and how I want to show up. That's where I'm trying to focus in at that moment. So if it's big audience backstage, one, I'm an extrovert, so I gain energy from people. So
Uh,
often before a speech, like break before whatever, I'm going out and I'm meeting people. I'm saying hi, I'm shaking hands, I'm because I gain energy from people and I want to build some connection. But then backstage, I'm like literally like hopping up, like building up my energy, getting ready to go. My focus then is okay. I want to show up and be present. I've prepared what I'm going to say, uh, and if I'm thinking about little things, I'm thinking about connection points. Like, what are those personalization pieces? What are the things that matter in that way? And I I host a podcast as well. It's called the Redefining High Performance Podcast. But I most of them I'm just is just me sharing like some of our research around high performance. There, but I last week I broke the mold a little bit and I interviewed somebody. It's a guy. His name's Kai Beckstrand who just won the show American Ninja Warrior. So
oh,
high
cool.
performer, literally just won the show. And 2 days later, I'm sitting down with him talking about it. We were talking about nerves because obviously, right before you run a course, right, you're walking up to the starting platform, you're going to feel that. And he made a point that I thought was really interesting. He said, the your nerves, the worst they're going to be is right before you start anything. He goes, I feel nerves right on the starting block, but then as soon as they say go and I start doing what I do, as soon as my body gets in motion, those nerves dissipate. As soon as I start the
Mhm.
first obstacle, then I'm locked in. And so I think it's good for all of us to remember that. Like, there's nerves backstage, you're going to feel that, right? And then as soon as you start the process, engage, ask that first question, start the speech, whatever it is, I think those nerves start to go away and you lock into what you've prepared to do.
Just start and lock in.
Yeah,
Really good insight right there. My father is a Lakers fan, and his favorite player of all time is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
good
And
choice.
you made an argument in your speech that he might be the greatest player of all time if you look at the stats. And I'd love to hear a story about him and how he embodies adaptability because you've already hit on adaptability, but it was powerful what you shared with us.
Yeah, I think Kareem, there's probably, in my opinion, 5 or 6 guys that deserve to be in the conversation of the GOAT, the greatest of all time, in the basketball sense. And Kareem's the guy that always gets left off the list. I don't know why, because arguably, like when you put together high school, college, and pros, he has like the best career of all time. And most of these guys that were having the conversation, they didn't spend 4 years in college. If you took Kareem and put him in the pros, like straight out of high school, like a LeBron or Kobe or somebody, I think his stats are even crazier. But yeah, the short version, Kareem dominated through high school, goes to UCLA, dominant at UCLA. His sophomore season, leads the NCAA in scoring, leads the NCAA in field goal percentage. He's National Player of the Year, and they win a national championship. I mean, completely dominant. But then that summer, the NCAA made a rule change where they outlawed dunking from the game of basketball. And over time, it's come to be known as the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar rule because it was actually a racist move by the NCAA to try and stop his dominance. Okay, so put yourself in Kareem's shoes. Everything's going great. You're killing it. And then all the rules change, right? And it's not fair. I mean, it would have been easy to go, I'm taking my ball, I'm going home, right? That would have been understandable. But Kareem chose instead to adapt his game. He went back in the gym, he started working on different ways to score, and he went back to a shot that he had used a little bit in high school and college, and he perfected it. It became his signature shot, the skyhook. So he comes back his junior season without being able to dunk. He does the same thing. He leads the NCAA in scoring, field goal percentage. He's National Player of the Year. They win a national championship. Same thing as senior season. He's the number one pick in the draft. He ends up playing 20 seasons in the NBA, 19 of which he's an all-star, six of which he's the MVP, which is the most ever in NBA history.
Wow.
He scores the most points in NBA history, and that record holds for the next 35 years until LeBron James broke that record. So pretty incredible stats, pretty incredible story. But for me, what stands out to me is his adaptability, right? Most people can't be completely dominant, have their main thing taken away,
Hmm.
and reestablish dominance at an even higher level. I don't, there's very few examples of that. And yet he created the most indefensible shot in basketball. So think about this. He's 7'2". He has a 7'4" wingspan. He puts the defender on one side of his body. He releases the shot at the very highest point on the other. I was just looking this up yesterday because somebody asked me. Most people have measured it, and he released the shot between 10 and 11 feet. So some of these sky hooks, he's
Oh,
shooting down at the basket.
what? Yeah.
Nobody's blocking the shot, right? Like it's not gonna happen. Um, I had a speaker friend named Mark Eaton who lived here in Utah, played for the Jazz. He was 7'4", one of the best defenders of all time. And we talked about him defending Kareem, and he's like, "Dude, it was impossible. I'm 7'4" with this massive wingspan. Like there's enough space that he's created. Mark blocked it maybe once or twice, one of the best blockers of all time. And he's
Wow.
like, Kareem, just you couldn't stop it. So but to me, it emphasizes this idea that adaptability is a game changer.
Hmm.
And our research showed that 79% of Americans believe that adaptability is the most crucial skill for you to be successful in today's world. Because you think about how fast our world is changing, all the things that we're dealing with, uh, we have to be able to adapt. We have to be able to adjust. We have to be able to learn. We have to be able to grow. Otherwise, we become irrelevant very, very quickly.
What a relevant point to sellers in a world where AI and generative AI is disrupting everything. And the reality is, I'm not saying that AI is going to take a seller's job, but the people who use AI will take other sellers' jobs who aren't. So that's an example. We got to adapt and leverage AI in our sales process. Also, I talked to buddies like Mikey. He's a real world seller I had on the podcast. He was blowing out his quota, and midway through the year, his company changes the quota and ups his
Mm.
number. Or, back when I was at Google Cloud, we had they eliminated different sales orgs and restructured their go-to-market. The playbook changes. So maybe the play that you're used to, the dunk, now you got to create a sky hook, like a different go-to-market angle to hit your number. So
Yep.
adaptability is so important. Is there anything else you want to add? Because then I want to take us to a couple other principles that you had shared from your talk. They're so good. So anything else you want to add,
No,
Ty?
we can go wherever you want to. I think adaptability matters for all of us, and it will continue to. That's not going to change. The rate of change will just keep going.
Yep. And the reason I check in with you is you have so much insight beyond like things I don't know about what you know. So I always like to check in if there's the cherry on top. So you had mentioned a learning list and an unlearning list. Now the unlearning, you heard the emphasis in my voice. It surprised me because I never thought of that. But can you just speak to the importance of like what's behind the learning list? Obviously, I imagine continual learning is important.
Yeah.
And then after, I can ask you a little about the unlearning list as well.
Yeah, so I think for me, I look at, okay, if we want to be adaptable, then, how do we do that? Well, ultimately, I think our rate of learning has to keep pace with the rate of change, right? I think that's what keeps us relevant and allows us to adapt. And so then I looked at it and said, okay, what's like a daily practice, right? You go to a conference or you listen to a podcast, we get some learning, but how do we do that on a regular basis? How do we make sure that that's something that becomes systematic within us and not just happens when it happens, right? And so this idea of a to learn list, it's kind of like a to-do list, but a to-do list is about performance and execution. Nothing wrong with that. Keep that, but start a to learn list.
Mm.
Add to it ideas like as we're having this conversation, you're listening, maybe something sparks your curiosity and you go, oh, I want to learn that or I want to get better in that, right? Throw it on your to learn list and then keep, maybe there's a point you deep dive in it or you ask for feedback on it, you explore it, you practice it, depending on what it is, a skill, knowledge, but you're going to add to that on a regular basis. And then I think part of that is that there's skills and things we need to unlearn, not just learn, right? I don't think growth is linear. I think that sometimes there's things that aren't serving us, right? Sometimes what got you here is not what it's going to get you there. And so I have on my phone, on the note on my phone, I have a to learn list and I have a subcategory that's the unlearn list. And sometimes I'm like, I got to throw that on there, right? Um, I mean, simple little things like I'll notice about myself of like the other day I noticed I feel like I'm critical in this specific area with my kids. I want to
Mm.
I want to unlearn that, right?
Mm.
Like that's not serving anybody. And even just for me, that's like let's explore it. Figure out where did that come from? Why? What does it trigger in me? Why do I feel like I have to say that? Or right? And so you're just constantly adding to that and the goal is to continue to learn and get better.
Powerful. Well, you got to add to the to learn list, the power of storytelling right there. I want to be a better storyteller. So I might add that to my to learn
Yeah.
list. I encourage the
Awesome.
audience to do so. But man, just to be vulnerable, like there are things that there could be even beliefs and thought patterns that I need to give up. Like say I bring on a big guest like you and it's like, oh, don't put Ty on a pedestal. And I'm not saying I'm doing that, but it's like, I want to unlearn like that. Oh, where's that coming from? Why am I doing that? Is there a belief or something going on? There's other things like I had a mentor say, Chris, you use your hands too much. I don't think I'm doing it today, but I see it and I'm like, oh, that's actually distracting. I need to unlearn that. So those are a couple examples, right? It could be in the sales context. You hit on it earlier, like my ego's getting in the way and I'm sometimes talking just to prove I'm valuable, especially like when I was an SDR, entry-level sales development rep starting out in tech sales. I was with senior sellers and executives and I noticed I wanted to prove I was like,
you're kind of trying to prove your worth, right? Yeah.
Right. And so unlearning that. And so, oh man, this is so good. I have to get now to another concept, building off of adaptability that really stood out to me in the talk. And this is something I keep talking about. I'm sharing with a bunch of others, but you showed us a music video of someone that it was just cringeworthy. And that you showed us a before and then an after. And the guy, I knew right away who it was. I couldn't believe it. It was Post Malone, one of the greatest, artists of our time with a record. I think you might know the numbers of podcast listens and the MTV Music Video Awards, but he was really bad at first. And now he's unbelievable. You showed us an original music video is cringe and then a current day music video that was unbelievable. And by the way, I think of Gary Vee, if you look at his first wine critiquing videos on YouTube versus now, it's a crazy difference. And I came away, Ty, from your talk saying, I want to be the Post Malone of like, say, podcasting. And even with the speaking business I'm building, I have a long way to go, but it was so encouraging. So can you walk us through, now we can't see it visually, but kind of the overall example and what we can learn from it about high
Yeah,
performance?
I'll tell you, if you just go on YouTube and type in Post Malone first music video, it'll pop up.
Okay.
He's in these short shorts. There's like this weird like dance clapping. It's so bad, right? It's just like my son showed it to me. I was like, that is the word. Like we just laughed and it's awkward, right? It's just, but when you think about where he started, where he is, I mean, we could dive into so many lessons from it. And talk about how innovation happens, talk about embracing failure and how you learn and grow through that
Yes.
process. But yeah, he's turned himself into, according to Billboard charts, the number four artist of the 21st century, the 11th most downloaded or streamed artist in Spotify history, right? I mean, done some incredible things. That happens because he realizes that he's pursuing something and he's going to continue to work at it. And yeah, I love that you walked away from the speech with that kind of inspiration, because that's what I hope, right? Is we all start somewhere. I think if I go back and I've tried to erase these from the internet, but if I find like early demo videos of me speaking, they're cringeworthy, they're bad, right? And hopefully I'm better now, but I also hope that in a couple of years I'm way better and kind of embarrassed by what I'm putting out now. That's the process that we're all going through trying to pursue something. And I think he's just a great example of it, because you can visually see it in such a big way.
Ty, this might sound dramatic, but through your speech, like you're building a legacy and like changing lives and causing ripple effects, because people like me are seeing that, okay, I can have permission to fail, I can fail forward, and someone like Post Malone could be that bad and that extraordinary. You know what? If I just keep failing forward, my success is almost guaranteed if I stay committed and I apply the concepts that Ty taught me. So I just really appreciate you for giving us permission to fail and really remove what I think you said was one of the biggest barriers to success and high performance. Would you say, like real quick, we said preparation might be the number one driver, although there's many drivers. If you had to pick a barrier to high performance, is fear of failure number one, or at least up there?
Yeah, according to our research, it's the number
Okay.
one thing that holds us back, right? Because it shows up in so many different ways. I mean, we could call it lots of different things. Like you might call it imposter syndrome, you might call it perfectionism, you might call it procrastinate. Like, but it's all based the fear of failure, right? We don't want to feel dumb, look stupid, go outside of our comfort zone. It causes us to hesitate. We don't try new things. We don't push the envelope because we're afraid. We don't often say that. We don't go, you know what, I'm really afraid right now. We have a lot of ways to justify it, but there isn't a there isn't a path, a simple path to success. There just isn't. Like you are going to fail through this process. And the way that you frame that in your mind, the way that you adjust it, the way that you see it differently and learn from it and grow, so it's not final, it's feedback, it becomes something useful. That's what allows you to move forward.
It's not final, it's feedback. But talk about how unstoppable we become. We're literally unstoppable if we can shift our perspective to embrace failure and say, I welcome it. I actually know this is the gateway to my greatness and unlocking my potential.
Here's what I'll tell you. I think that we all know that the doing is hard,
Yeah.
right? In fact, in our research, we found this big performance gap. 75% of people said it's very important to embrace failure. Then we asked those same people, how often do you do that?
Oh,
40%. Right? And that's probably a lie, if we're being honest. That's in research, you'd call that a performance gap. The difference between what you should do and what you actually do. And the quickest way to raise performance is to close that gap. So let's talk about why. Okay. There's a couple of things that come into
yeah.
play. Uh, some of that is just courage, right? It's when that fear shows up, I'm going to step forward and do it anyway. Some of it's discipline. We talked about that a little bit earlier, right? It's the daily execution, but some of it's, I would call integrity. It's aligning your values with your actions, right? You can't tell me that this is what I truly believe if you're not actually doing it, because you don't. Not enough to push past fear, not enough to try something uncomfortable. Like this is the example that just came to mind, but you can't tell me that you value your kids' education if you're not saving any money for them. that's out of alignment, right? You can tell
Yes.
me that you think it's a cool idea, but not more important than, I don't know, Netflix or whatever it is you're spending your money on, right? And so all of those things start to come into play. But yeah, if we can close that gap, we increase performance. So I think that most of us consciously know that failure is part of the deal. We have to push through it. But then we also go, what if I could avoid it? I don't think you can. I don't think you can fully avoid it. I think we
Yeah.
can learn and get better for sure. But I think that there is an element of you have to embrace it.
Gosh, what a deep concept as we start to finish out the conversation and land on the gap between knowing and doing. So we could know and have the knowledge today that you provided us, but we might not execute on it. And that's the difference maker. There's that execution gap. And I've invested in some like leadership seminars. I don't know if you know like Landmark or PSI seminars that were
I've
interesting.
done five seminars I went to years ago.
You
Yeah,
did PSI
awesome.
seminars?
Just the whatever the intro, the first one
Awesome.
is. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
cool
And we
group.
might have a little bit of a common language, but part of me going through some of those things is I wonder, this is for discussion, is do some people think they're not worthy?
I'm
And
sure that
does
comes
that
into play.
lead to not taking action? And I feel like, and then you could be aware that I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I deserve this or whatever. But I realize the awareness is not enough, but just taking action anyways, regardless of how we feel, is the opportunity to disprove limiting beliefs and actually collect evidence to the contrary, and almost tells our subconscious, like, because I'm acting anyways, I actually think I'm worthy. I know that's kind of deep, but it's just a thought.
No, it is, but I also think what you're describing is a level of self-awareness and practice to find that self-awareness that
Yeah.
most people don't go through, right?
Yes.
Most people talk about it'd be cool to be successful. I'll give you an example. I had somebody I was related to, a friend, cousin. I'm trying to remember how he's related, but at one point he literally said out loud, "We would all love to be as successful as Ty, but I don't want to work that hard." And I was like, "At least you admitted it, like I don't know."
Yeah.
Um, I just think most people are not pursuing an understanding of who they are, what holds them back, what they need, how they grow and develop. To me, that's the point. I think that's why we're here.
Yes.
We can. I'm not trying to go religious. I think we're here to grow and become the best versions of ourselves. Otherwise, what's the point? Like, I think that that's the whole purpose. And so when I'm talking about high performance, this means something to me because I think that's what we're here to do. And if in the process of me pursuing that, I can hopefully inspire somebody like you to pursue that for you, and there is a little bit of a ripple effect, like that's the coolest thing in the world to me.
Oh, man. I love to experience the heart behind your message. And it's amazing to see someone who's on fire, aligned to their purpose. And I will say that aside from like, maybe if we take the self-awareness journey and we peel back the self-awareness onion, which I jokingly say, the more layers you peel back, the more you might want to cry when you're looking inward. Like, aside
Sometimes.
from maybe discovering that, oh, I don't think I'm worthy, like maybe something happened and you created a story as a kid in response to trauma, and we won't get into that, but that story's there. Another thing could be, you kind of hit on this, people don't want to put in the work, but they're not facing the reality of that, where there
Mhm.
is a false hidden benefit of avoiding our greatness and playing the victim. Because I know our brain likes to be right about, oh, I'm not gonna good or whatever. And it's like we get to be right about our current shittiness, excuse my French, and we get to stay comfortable. And so I do think, Ty, you hit on it. There's a deep insight. Like a lot of us too, just we're not honest with ourselves. We just don't want to put in the work.
Yeah. And that's sad. I think the greatest loss in life is the difference between human potential and actual performance.
Mm.
That's why we're here. That's what we need to pursue.
Yes. And Ty, like what a great note to end on. We're going to land the plane now because we need to help you transition to your next thing in your day. And we got 2 minutes, but I'm going to save the power of storytelling for hopefully in the future. It'd be wonderful
Oh,
to have you back
yeah.
on and we could maybe talk about that. Or, your new book that's, of course we talked about high performance today, but we could get more into it and make sure to promote it. But I'm going to encourage the audience to make sure to check out your website, linked in the description, the white paper you mentioned. Any other calls to action? I mean, I'd encourage them to connect with you on LinkedIn, but any other calls to action?
Yeah, happy to connect with everybody who's listening. I'm pretty easy to find if you just search Ty Bennett and reach out on social or whatever makes sense. But yeah, Chris, thanks for doing this. Awesome work that you're doing. Excited to see all the great things that you keep doing. But thank you for having me.
Ty, thank you for generously sharing your insight and inspiration and impacting me personally and the people that are going to see this as this floats out into the YouTube Evergreen Sea and on Spotify and Apple. So enjoy that interview. I know you got someone coming over. Have a great rest of your day, and I really appreciate you. And to the audience, to your success in tech sales, entrepreneurship, and in life, happy selling and happy living. And we'll see you in the next one.